Welcome, everyone. This is Pound of Needles, and you're listening to LOTRO Players News, where we take a look at latest in LOTRO and hear LOTRO players. And this week, I'm joined by Krister,
Hello.
Cinders,
Hello.
and Sanswinda.
Hello.
Hello, everyone. Had a great week of LOTRO this week?
Kind of.
Kind of?
Kind of.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see what we have in the news for this week, where we had Bulwer beta number 3 for update 45, and looks like they did another build halfway through the week. They called that 3.1.
Uh-huh.
Oh,
So it's
Sans
mostly-
has big thoughts.
That's big. Oh yes. Sensman has some big thoughts, and I'll go for a brief overview. Then we are going to get Sensman's opinions about certain changes to the hunter, and let's have a look at what we had in there. This includes the usual, pretty much the same blurb as they've had before. They said they highlighted the new notes in yellow, and then they turned off the yellow just before the show, so I could no longer see what they were.
Perfect.
But there are a number of changes on the Etmore thing, where they made a number of changes in what was going on in there. They also included this week, about half, I think it was when they did the 3.1 update, is they had the first look at the Angrim Sorceress. And this is one that they said was in a very, very early state. So reading the notes for that one at the time being would probably be saying, okay, it's supposed to do this, but no, not really yet. Not really yet. So we'll have to take a further look on that after it settles down and starts to gel. And so it's basically number of tweaks to the things that are in there. I think most of the changes or tweaks might have been to the class changes, but I get the impression from Senswinda that there are a few things in here that were not quite ready yet. Like, I think there was a bug in there for the Hunter Red line where it was literally removing a third of the damage and putting it onto the floor, so nothing happened with it. But apparently that's the least thing that's bothering Sans, because at least she knows that that's going to be fixed, right?
Well, yes, they say that they're fixing that.
They say they're fixing it. Okay.
I mean, okay, so they reworked the Hunter not that long ago and gave us
Right.
3 very distinct lines that do 3 very distinct things.
Right.
And that do them pretty well. Like, we literally just need a small DPS boost so that the class that is, like, known for damage, like if you go to create a character, it says, what is your role? Damage. Can actually do the amount of damage as the class whose role when you go to create a character says it's a healer. That's all we need. Like, just boost the damage by about 3%. Problem solved. No more worries. But no, we're reworking the whole thing. So I went in and tested it.
All right.
And they've got another known issue with the yellow line where 2 of the traits, determination and hindering shot, have an overlapping issue where if you spend points in one, it will auto spend points in the other for free, or it'll eat your points if you spend points in both. So they're presumably going to fix that. There was another trait in the yellow line that, like, it said you could trade it up to 5, but no matter how many points you put in it, it only gave you 1. So, in theory, that's going to be fixed as well at some point. I was not overly impressed with any of the skill lines, I'll be honest.
Not overly impressed.
Trading yellow right now, hopefully they're working on it. But like on the live servers, if you run tier 7 delving in yellow, yes, you've got to do a little bit of groundwork before you start the fight, but like you're pretty good so long as you don't pull 8 mobs. Like, not too much of a problem. You can kill things. It's pretty highly survivable, really.
Oh,
Um,
you're telling this to a person who has trouble surviving a tier
Breakfast?
7 delving if there's only one mob pulled.
yes, I'm telling you, Pine Leaf, that using my current hunter, my current gear on live in Yellow Line, I did not have problems with a tier 7 delving unless I pulled 8 mobs.
Okay.
I did have to do some footwork. I did have to throw out my exploding dummy a few times and back up.
I don't remember
and
being
reset
there.
Trap. But but it was fine. Like no big problem. And like more than once, the trap that like just pops out of you when you take damage saved me. Like beautiful. It worked as intended. Traps did damage. My bow and arrow did damage. The exploding training dummy thing took the aggro just like it's supposed to, and then like eventually exploded and did damage just fine on live. On Bull Roar, I could not survive pulling more than one. And the one was very iffy, because the one that I pulled needed to be ranged to be highly survivable. I guess I survived 2. 1 ranged, 1 melee. But the training dummy was useless. Like, they would hit it and it would disappear. Just boop, gone. Didn't even appear to do any damage. Didn't have traps to use to like keep things from hitting me. Very like you could throw out 1 trap. Like it was like trait this to get squished flat.
Straight this to get pushed flat. You're
Like-
giving me a lot of confidence in my Yellow Line hunters.
I didn't make it past the first camp on my Yellow Hunter in the A Cut Above delve. And that one's one of the easier pulls. So I traded red to see if I could like at least clean up the mess that I made, and I cleaned up the mess that I made. And red did good so long as I didn't pull more than 1 melee. Like I could pull multiple so long as only one of them was melee. Not more than 3. And 1 melee though, so no more than 4. But there was a huge problem because at some point, if you've pulled more than 1 melee, you run out of focus. And there's no way to build focus on the move. But if you stand still to try to get off a shot, not only are your shot being interrupted because somebody's hitting you, but also you only have medium armor and you die pretty fast while you're trying to shoot the mob that's whacking you with a sword, especially if there's more than 1 of them. So, Red Line did not last past the second camp. Blue Line was functional. Ish. Like, I cleaned up the delve, I fixed the problems that I made in the other 2 lines, but I don't have as much range as the archers, which was really annoying. Like, you finish killing the melee dude and you turn to get the hunter and you can't even hit the hunter yet. You've got to like keep moving closer. So that was annoying. I feel like with my main bow, with bow being my main weapon, I should have at least as much range as whatever rookie Corsair is handling a bow. And focus did not appear to be generating as quickly as the tooltip said it should. It was definitely not generating as fast as it is on live with the like just passive generating. But it worked. Lingering Wound did a good job taking the place of Heartseeker in my rotation. and had a shorter cooldown. And yeah, it was just time consuming and annoying to try to figure out like how to actually hit things and stay in range. Like that 5 meters really makes a big difference. I also tried the melee skills that like they want us to use, and like there's still no point in using them. Also, like playing it normally, the only line where I did not end up with melee problems was blue, because like there's no reason for them to end up in melee range on my blue when I was running blue. So that was weird.
And blue is the line that's given melee skills more than any other.
Right, but it's like the line that needs them
Doesn't
least.
need them.
But that, like, I feel like this whole setup is like if you told a champion, like, hey champion, we noticed that sometimes you have to fight people who are shooting at you with bow and arrow. So we decided that we would shorten your melee range so that like the mobs can start hitting you before you get close to them. And we're gonna give you some extra DPS in your one bow skill, so that you can like shoot the archer and do a little bit more damage. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. Like, I don't know where they were going with this. I don't know why they thought it was good. Like they might fix it, but like LOTRO's not set up to work like ESO, where I can have a bow on one line for it, and then I can switch to my back bar and dual wield. Like that works in ESO, but that does not really work in LOTRO like at all. So I don't really know where they're going with it. We'll see. But right now, besides the damage, the inability to procure focus over time really plagued Redline. I mean, the lack of damage did too, because like you were having to run through all of your skills multiple times to kill something. But that being out of focus while moving, and then like never regaining enough focus to get off a shot to like hinder them from chasing you, was really annoying. The like trading into yellow line to get barbed arrow to actually slow down things did not appear to actually be slowing down anything, which was also annoying. So that's one of the bugged overlapping things. So that could be just a problem from it being an overlapping skill thing. And then yellow line, like none of its skills appeared to be working as the tooltips indicated they were supposed to. So hopefully it's a work in progress. Because like if things were working the way they said they would, it might have been good. But the way it was basically like trait this, go splat. So yeah. And then they added some new skills, which didn't really make that much sense to me. Like some of the arrows added to yellow line, like they're okay, but like lingering wound was better, and so were all the traps, in my opinion. And then they added in a random skill called long shot to the red line that like has a 25% chance to grant you an additional 3 focus if it hits, but it has a really big chance to not hit. And like, your whole job as a hunter is to hit things. And it's not even like an instant shot. Like, so you can't use it while you're running away and just hope that you get focus. You have to induct. And if you're going to already be inducting to gain focus, you may as well just use skills that you know are going to hit, especially since it doesn't do very much damage. So I'm not entirely sure why they stuck that in there. Yeah. And then upshot takes longer to cool down. So red felt clunky, like very clunky, and very much out of focus most of the time. And of course, doing low damage, so they know that that's a problem. Yellow line was very, very squishy and not really functional. And blue line was okay. I mean, like, the only change that they did that... Oh, and you were slow. Like, really slow. I think it's, like, technically only a 5% decrease over, like, a straight blue line right now. But it felt really slow. Which was weird. Like, just running speed. So that was kind of annoying.
Wait, you felt like the hunter was slow?
Yeah. Like, and it might have really been 25% speed, but like, if I'm traded blue line, I'm used to 30% speed. Plus 10% after I've shot something successfully. Like, 25% speed felt slow.
I
didn't notice it feeling slow on either of the other lines, but...
Don't you feel that anything other than a war steed at full speed is slow?
Yes.
Yes. Even a war steed at full speed is kind of slow. But...
How dare you? I'm going to come to defense of war steeds. No, they're not.
They are when it's laggy. Compared to the
you had to play the lag card, didn't you?
Compared to the expected speed, I kept trying to like figure out what was wrong and why I was going so slow. And then I realized that like it's because they made me go slow. And so yeah, that was annoying. I did appreciate, though, that in any of the lines you can instantly remove the poisons or wounds or fears or whatever gets on you as you're moving, and that is a huge improvement. Like, if they could do that on live and just boost our damage a tiny bit, that would be beautiful. But, like, I would give that up and continue inducting it if they would just not ruin the class. So
well, I'm assuming. Am I right in assuming? And you might not know too, Sans, but I'm assuming your opinion is not unique. I'm assuming a lot of hunters are probably. Are a lot of people having a problem with?
Yes.
Okay.
All of the ones I have heard are having big problems with it.
I have not heard a hunter who's happy with it yet, except for the instant cast of our skill that should have been instant like a long time ago. That's the only, like, even like removing the inductions from blue line, you don't notice. Like it did not make any difference to me that there was no induction on blue line, because the cooldowns still mean that you can't just keep spamming the same thing. Like it literally made no difference for me for blue line. So like I don't know. It would have made a big difference if the focus builders didn't have an induction on red line and the focus spinders did. Like, that would have been fine. Or if like nothing had an induction on red line, that would have been fine for solo. But as it is, red line was really clunky and is going to require running with a tank. and yellow line was just too squishy to be useful for anything. And like you couldn't even like stun mobs who were chasing you in yellow line. Like nothing was working. So we'll see what they do.
So it sounds like to me that it's update 45 still a bit of ways away before it'll be ready to.
I really hope they don't release it before they fix this. Like, it was pretty bad, and I think there's a reason that everybody runs precision stance as a hunter, and I think maybe they just need to build that in as just like a generic hunter passive. Like we can't do anything without focus. And if our focus builders are all going to have inductions, we've got to have some passive way to regain focus across the lines if we're going to solo.
Well, I have a feeling that they could be of the opinion that it's too easy to get focus right now.
You know, that might be their opinion, but if that's their opinion, I would bet that they have not played Hunter. Because here's the thing. Like, if you're on a brawler and you've got to build up your, what do they call it? Your metal? Or whatever it is. You can stand there and punch things while you're getting hit over the head with a sword. And you're not going to have too much problem. Like, you can do this while you're being hit over the head. If you're on a champion, and you've got to build up your, what do they call it for champions? I don't remember what it's called, but you've got to build up your equivalent of focus for champions.
Right.
You can stand there and be hit over the head with a sword while you build that up. No problem. If you're on a rune keeper and you need to build up in one direction or the other, you can throw out a rune stone and build that up. Almost no problem. If you're on a hunter and you have to build that up while getting hit over the head with a sword, you will die before you get it built up. Like, in blue line, you can run backwards while building it. That works. Not fast if you didn't have the passive, but it works. In either of the other two lines, there's no recourse. You just can't do damage. So we need like the equivalent of a runestone, or we need a pocket guardian, or we need a different system for building focus that doesn't require inductions. Because having to induct to build focus only works if you're fighting a ranged mob. If you've got a melee on you, you're toast. One melee you can deal with if you build focus before every fight. Like, you can do that. You can do your regaining focus skill, set up your fight, take down one melee, do your focus skill, take down one melee. But if you've got two melees charging you, especially if you're only doing 2/3 damage, like, you're going to die before you can take down the second melee. It might be better if you can one-shot everything. Like, that would probably work. But then, like, they've broken it in the other direction. Which, like, why?
So it went from one-shot win kill to no matter how many arrows I fire, it won't die?
Well, like, you just, like...
Well, thing is you're making the assumption that the non-induction skills are the main skills of the hunter. I think they consider the main skills to be the induction spells.
Yes, but if there's a melee hitting you, you keep getting interrupted in your inductions and you can't get them off to build the focus.
Oh.
Does that make sense? But your focus skills, your focus spenders, they do more damage. They're instantly shot. And so, like, if you build up your focus and then you start with an induction bleed, you start your battle with an induction bleed, you can finish off a mob. If you've got 2 induction bleeds that you can get off pretty close together before they get to you, you can finish off 2. But like when they get close to melee range, like you've got to use your instant skills and move backwards. You can't keep using inductions if you're solo.
Okay, I was about to say, well, then then you have a solution called Emerald. Yeah, no, I know you just
right
for solo. Yes.
Like, but then like not everything. You can't always like. I mean, like I guess you could only play your hunter if you have somebody to tank for you.
Pocket
but at that point, like there are instances where you've got to solo. Like that, they don't, and like we don't have. So like you know how runekeepers have vivid imagery and can just stun everything in a circle? Hunters don't have something like that. Runekeepers have these rune stones that can like take the damage, and like right now only Trapper of Foes has that, and they're taking it away. Like it's not even going to pull aggro. It's going to just like disappear. It's supposed to explode when it disappears, and it wasn't. But like, unless that explosion is enough to kill the mob, like that's pretty much useless. Like, I don't know. Or they could give hunters heavy armor. That would fix it. It doesn't really make much sense. But it would fix it. I think
that's very non-thematic.
Oh, it's totally non-thematic, but so is like having to stand there and get hit over the head.
Or collecting goo.
I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what they actually pull out of this. But I don't know, maybe they could give us like a no cooldown on our focus potions. And like those would be a useful again. I also didn't get like any crits while I was doing this. In any line. Like the critical chance just seemed to be gone.
Yeah.
So hopefully that'll get fixed too.
I have a feeling that
either that or I critted
something
and
that the top end hunters are doing that with the builds or something like that that are making them so overpowered that they're doing something to try to nerf them. And it's of course killing the average hunter and it's
okay, so like if we're that overpowered, why are they choosing minstrels instead of us for DPS and raids?
Okay, you got a point with that.
I think the problem is that hunters are not pulling raid DPS right now, and they're supposed to be trying to fix that. Because, like, literally our only job is to provide damage.
Right.
And they're trying to give us a second job, which, like, I don't know, maybe they're trying to put lore masters out of a job or turn us all into lore masters. I don't know.
Maybe they're trying to put the hunters to work. My experience with hunters is in a raid is that typically they're sitting in the back eating sandwiches or talking while we're doing all the fighting, and then they act like they made some contribution when the only thing they really do is fire arrows just before you're supposed to pull and ruin the pull. Or maybe I'm being too harsh.
You sound a little.
I mean, like when things are going well, the arrows do a lot of damage, and like timing it with pulls can be hard, especially if you're like going from shooting one thing to like trying to not pull the next thing, because it will auto select the next target for you as you're like trying to keep shooting.
Yeah, my tanking senses became so honed that if I saw an arrow fly out towards our, towards the boss before we were going to pull, I knew who shot it by the height of the arrow. All right. That flew past my shoulder, so I know it's the elven archer that fired that one. This one flew past my ankle. Aha, hobbit.
Yep. So I don't know if they're going to actually fix something or if they're going to make it so Hunter can't actually do anything.
I have to believe they're going to that they have to respond to the backlash. You feel like if everybody's not happy with this, maybe that's not the way to go.
Well, the response has been so far, well, trust us, we're working on it.
Oh, okay. Trust you?
I
mean, or we know about this issue.
We know about the If they know about the issue, let's hope they are actually doing something about it.
Right. So hopefully we see the relevant tweaks and you notice a change in that in Bullroar. So
hopefully, the only one that seemed to have skills actually hooked up the way they were probably supposed to be right now was the Huntsman, the blue line. So,
well, that might be the best point to make too. Then, since you're not even seeing an accurate reflection of anything yet, because they don't have it fully.
I don't think things are hooked up the way they're supposed to be. So I'll give it another try, and I'm hoping it's going to get better.
It better.
But like in Yellow Line, they even had this skill called Combat Focus that lets you use your focus skill that builds focus in combat. But it's also an induction, and when something bashes you over the head while you're inducting, you lose it and it goes on cooldown. So that didn't even help. So and your one skill that can give you your instant full focus, you could use it in any line still. That's awesome. But it's got a major cooldown on it. And it only works once per fight, which is probably good, but yeah. I wish they would notice that, we do DPS at range with an bow and arrow and should be able to out DPS the healing classes. Or at least match DPS with healing classes. Since we do DPS. That's all.
All right. Anyone else have any comments on this before I go on?
Let me check the chat.
Oh, one other thing. Cry of the Hunter, no longer dazing enemies, and having it doesn't daze enemies anymore. And that's intentional that it doesn't daze enemies anymore. And that also...
That's the entire point of that skill.
Well, apparently, the entire point of that skill was not to daze enemies because they took it away. I don't know. I guess the point of the skill is that you unstun yourself. But, if you can unstun yourself and daze enemies, you can back up a little bit and use an induction skill and build a little bit of focus and maybe slow them down if you use barbed arrow, except barbed arrow doesn't slow anything anymore. Anyway, they seem intent on splatting hunters.
Okay.
There changes to some of these skills. Blindside doesn't generate focus, and it's your one focus builder that you could use instantly before. And they reduce the damage on it. So and it has a big cooldown, so it's not like you could just spam it.
Yeah, Blindside was a rather strange one because I know some people who started using it mainly because of that focus building.
Well, yeah, but it doesn't generate focus anymore in this build. So it seems like their whole goal for this build was see how many hunters we can splat before they give up.
Okay, let's see. Okay, here's the note that she's speaking of. Cry of the Hunter no longer dazes enemies by default. The daze will become a bonus effect granted by a legendary tracery. So that means that
you should definitely tell this and soothe all of the poor hunters who are only level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. Because it's totally going to help them to know that if they manage to continue playing a hunter until they're at least level 45, they might eventually be able to daze enemies and get away from them. Who are you kidding? Like, if you can't, like, succeed for 45 levels, you've got a broken... This is a broken build. Right? Like, if you have to have legendary... Unless they're giving us legendary items at level 1, which, like, is technically as possible and likely as them giving us war steeds at level 1, but I won't complain about either. So long as they increase the gold amount delivered by everything to match the needed gold for all of the reforges. But, like, that does me absolutely no good to say that this skill that, like, you depend on for your survival is now going to be a legendary tracery? Like, I'm sorry, but I've played a hunter from level 1 to 150, and if I have to spend the first 45 levels without being able to stun anything to get away, the chances of me ever getting to having a legendary tracery on that character are slim.
Oh.
Okay, so... Go ahead, Pine Leaf.
There's two other things actually in the Cry of the Hunter. The next thing he says is run speed potency has been increased from 10% to 20%, while the duration has been halved from 10 seconds to 5 seconds. So
now you're a sprinter.
So you can sprint away from them while losing focus, unless you're in blue line. While losing focus, you can sprint away from them quickly for 5 seconds while they chase you, trying to hit you over the head with a sword that they have a relatively long reach with.
Exactly. I've watched a lot of videos where you lose focus when you're running away. You know, all those people that run into telephone poles or trip or
right.
You know.
And bubble potency has been increased to 15% of your maximum morale. Bubble duration reduced from 30 seconds to 7 seconds. So it's a very, very short bubble. Now,
and it still has a long cooldown.
15% still feels like a rather small bubble.
Oh, it's a very small bubble. In fact, it will take approximately 1 to 2 hits.
Okay.
But you don't have to worry. It'll all be used up because the enemies won't be dazed. They'll be hitting you.
Yes.
Okay, so I have 3 thoughts.
Okay.
Before we move away from this. 1, Mary Rose says all of their hunters are in precision stance because they don't like strength or the other stance.
That's because I think they like to get their focus, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, and like the other 2 stances, like strength stance is big benefit is that you can use a quick shot slow. But the need for that has been reduced. So it's not as useful.
Okay.
2,
and that's also a legacy.
I am of the opinion that if you don't understand a class inside and out, you probably shouldn't tamper with its settings. That's just a personal thought. I don't know a hunter in and out, and I would not dream of telling Sans what to do with her hunter because I don't have a clue what I'm doing, and I will look like an idiot.
Ooh, I want to boss everyone around.
And
let me do it.
I think that might be part of the problem is not having a good working understanding of what hunters do in their roles. I think it's really easy to look at some of those skills and be like, oh, this is too much, but not actually know how it plays out in practicality. And I've heard rumors that perhaps the devs don't play hunters as primary characters. And it might be worth it for them to roll one at level 1 and try it out to see how those skills actually play out in real life and if they can persist to 45 and get the trace.
Well, and I think they should play it on live the way it is. At low levels like 1 through 20-ish. At mid levels, like 50 to 70-ish. At upper mid levels now, 100 to 115-ish. And then at end game in some raids and some delves solo.
That
Because
105 to 110 jump, that was, or 105 to 106, that was a huge jump for everybody, and I think it still is.
I think they've decreased the jump a little bit, but yeah. But I think if they don't really know what the skills do or why we choose one thing over another, then and how it affects the feel of the play, because I think if they made the changes in a way that didn't make the gameplay feel clunkier and less
Effective?
just like incredibly ineffective, they would have better luck convincing us they were good changes. Like,
Yeah. So then my
like
third
the recent update to the yellow line was good. Like, that was an amazingly good change. But now they're undoing all of it. So, your third thought.
My third thought, which is a perfect solution, rather than messing with classes at this point, what if instead they focused on increasing Warsteed cosmetic options and added Warsteed dyes with all of the same colors as you can use on your outfits, especially Shire Plum.
Well, and
I have a feeling that you may be in a minority on that opinion, though.
Well,
And I do know a
I'm
lot of
just
people have been
saying-
asking for changes to the hunter. Now they were asking for things like an increase in DPS. Apparently,
I was gonna say the thing that we want is an increase in DPS, but like they could just change a few numbers to increase the DPS, test it out, make sure that it's actually functioning as the increase they intended and not incredibly higher than they intended, and like be done with it and spend their energy on cool things like cosmetics and like fixing our cosmetics so that like we can right click them and they disappear from our inventory like they do for Warsteed cosmetics. Like, this would be a major quality of life update. It doesn't make any hunters mad. It doesn't make anybody else mad. Like, hunters can do DPS and raids again. If they just increase the DPS a little bit, it would be great.
Well, and I can't imagine anybody complaining about having more options and variety to make cool outfits. Like, I feel
Unless they make it all cost mithril.
Yes.
That would cause complaints.
That would cause complaints. But there are also some people who would spend mithril on it, just like they will spend mithril on dyes for outfits. And I think, just spitballing here, that if they are feeling like the game needs changes, that those quality of life changes might be more productive and less likely to have negative impacts on them. Whereas I could see a whole bunch of people who play primarily hunters, if this happens and they don't find another class they love, in a way they're being driven away from the game. And I don't think that was what they were going for. But I think that might end up being an unintended consequence. Just because the understanding of the gameplay and the hunter's role just doesn't seem to be there in what I've seen and heard. Again, though, I don't play a hunter. And there are reasons I don't play a hunter. I would much rather be in the middle of everything using melee skills, because kiting is not my strength. And I think
we have a bunch of options for how you can be in the middle using melee skills.
yeah.
We don't have, like, we've only got one class that relies on ranged physical damage.
Because even like lore masters, it's tactical damage, but they also have the ability, like their skills for melee are also long range skills. Like you can use them both ways. So you don't have to change your build to be able to do something close or far away. And you have a pet to help you out if you're in blue line. Like you have options so that you're not running solo as a glass cannon with the just coming and wailing on you. Like you have ways to distract, you have ways to mez, you have ways to slow so that you can stay in one spot, because lore masters really only have one skill that they can move with, and I think that one might not even work unless you're like in red line. But because they have those inductions and you can't move without breaking the induction, like they have ways of slowing mobs down before they get wailed on. And they should be more of a glass cannon than any medium armor class because they're light armor classes. Like,
yeah, but you don't have to like build up the ability to call down lightning. You just have to channel it successfully.
Right, but what I'm saying though is that like lore masters, even with the long inductions, like they have ways to allow their inductions to happen to be able to use their skills. Whereas like what I'm hearing you say with the hunters is that you have to have the induction happen to build your focus, and you can't do that because you have no way to slow stuff down from pounding on you and interrupting you.
Exactly.
And so hunters,
and like
even as a medium armor class, are at a disadvantage because they can't get those inductions off on the skills that have inductions to build their
and like
focus,
mini
use their other
works
skills.
because like you don't have to worry about the inductions very much. Like they're like you can just kind of move and call down light and sing songs and like mock them and whatever. But also, when they get close enough to hit you, your one melee skill steals their morale, which is helpful because it heals you anytime you use it. And like you have a bunch of heals that you can use on the move as well. Whereas like yellow line, it looked like as I was setting it up, I was actually kind of like excited to try it because it looked like I would have healing skills kind of like my minstrel does, and maybe like I could move around and heal and like succeed, and it could be a kind of fun new way to play. But all of their heals were channels. Like, and I never successfully got one of them off while in combat. So it was totally pointless to have them available because like they weren't actually available. They were just like mocking you. Like on paper, we thought you could heal yourself while you were killing things. But it turns out that in practice, you can attempt to heal yourself and die, or you can not heal yourself and run out of focus and die. But like both were like your choices, die or die. So I don't know.
Okay. So we can only hope that it is better next week.
Yeah. But like people have been complaining about these changes to the yellow line like since the day it went live. So
and
like,
I guess I better check them out considering that I only play yellow line when I play the hunter.
Next bull rower build, like it's worth trying.
Yeah.
You can just copy your hunter over.
Yeah, I think I got the impression that this looks like it's not ready or something like that, so I didn't bother.
I really hope it's not ready. I hope it's not. It feels like it can't be. But I know that hasn't always stopped them.
Yeah, I think there have been one or two unpopular class changes over the recent years.
I mean, like, the best news I have for it not being ready right now is that, like, you literally don't have enough traceries to fill out your allies for any of the lines right now because of the things that they're changing that like don't apply anymore. Like the strength stance and precision stance traceries you can't really use because they do nothing. But like they're the only option to finish filling out your allies right now. So and they know they're working on traceries and stuff. They're just trying to get the skills down first, I think. But that's like my biggest hope that they know that it's not ready for live is that they don't have any traceries. But
yeah. So with that, I think that's it for our discussion on the notes, which has been focusing on the hunter changes. And we can only hope that these vendors are settled before things are over. And the only other thing I had here, I did have a note here about the Agron Sorceress.
I hope things for the burglar are going better.
What?
I said I really hope things for the burglar are going better than they are for the hunter right now.
Oh, okay.
I don't know a yellow line burglar well enough to test that out. And it looks like yellow line is the most affected by the changes.
Yes, guess
but I'm really hoping that you should test it out, Pine Leaf.
Yeah, I think I'm going to need to because
I know, like right now, yellow line burglars are in high demand for raiding, and if they're completely messing up their yellow line too, it's going to be like, we don't need burglars, we don't need hunters. Like, we will only raid with War Masters, DPS minis, and healing runekeepers, or something like that.
Yeah. Now, like, I think I heard somebody talk about the yellow line changes on the burglar, and I got the impression they weren't as bad as the ones on the hunter.
That's good, because they've really messed up the hunter ones.
Because I know that some things, or at least there are a couple of those key skills in there where it's currently pretty clunky the way it operates. And I got the impression that's a little bit smoother now, but I think I need to really check it myself and remember to do so.
Yeah. Like when I went over, I did try to like read the tooltips and use it the way that it said it was supposed to be used. Like I didn't try to just play it the way that I've always played it. And then I tried to play it the way that I've always played it. And like the only line that either of those worked for was blue line. So
okay.
And that was still clunkier.
Let's head into the store sales. Cinders, what's on sale this week?
On sale this week is Hot Days, Hot Deals, Last Call for summer sales. Store specials include 20% off Quest Pack Legacy of Morgoth, 35% off a 4th Profession Unlock, #worth it, 50% off Quest Pack Corsairs of Umbar now through July 10th. And in the LOTRO market, you can get 20% off Legacy of Morgoth, 30% off of Corsairs of Umbar, 70% off The Fate of Gundabad, 85% off of Mordor through July 6th, which would be tomorrow. So by the time this goes on the podcast, it will probably be too late for that one. Available for a limited time. You can get the Loyal Knight Patrons Coffer. You can read more about it following that link. And it is also available through July 12th. And you can accelerate your adventure and get 30% off of Aria of the Valar Level Boost, Gifts of the Valar, Mithril Coins through July 10th. And the weekly coupon is for Universal Ingredient Packs times 10 with coupon code SUMMERCRAFTS, no space, now through July 10th as well.
All right, thank you, Cinders. Now let's go into a little bit of reminiscing down memory lane and talk about our first raid experience. Does anyone here actually remember their first raid experience?
I do.
I do. Yes, I had been a LOTRO player that had come over with the group that I'd played EverQuest, Dark Age of Camelot, Anarchy Online. So we had ended up here, and I ended up being the only one that stayed behind. So I was in a kin max level by myself. I was in the Prancing Pony, and I ran into this guy there who liked, of course. Do you think it was my skills or talent that got me noticed? No.
Your
It
cosmetics.
was my cosmetics. I was dressed to the nines as usual, sophisticated yet nonchalant. And so he was the leader of a raiding group. And so this is when I first met the nefarious Finor, and started raiding in Moria. And my first raids were in the Grand Stairs. And that was so much fun.
Grand
It was
Stairs.
it was the what's the raid there? Now I can't. Okay, that's the part I can't remember.
Okay. There's a raid in that area.
Yes, yes. Sorry. It's so maybe let me back up. Moria.
Moria. Okay.
Raiding in Moria was my first experience with raiding, and it was just like my eyes opened on an entirely new game at that point. And that was what was so fun about it, was I had a blast learning how to raid, learning the another dimension of playing a captain at that point, because you were using skills that you never even thought of using as a solo player. You just avoided them, and now you had to actually use tactics, and that's where in the Grand Stair specifically was where I learned how to use my fear dispel actively and pay attention to it, and so you picked up all these little skills. But that was my first experience, and it made me fall in love with raiding, and I loved it ever since.
All right, Cinders.
And oh,
Wait, am I going in wrong order every time when I call on someone?
well, Finor introduced me to raiding properly too. I had done some group content before with other people, and like Terry Adwin started me in figuring out like how a hunter meshes with a group. But my first experience of raiding with like 12 people was I must have been level 100, maybe 105, somewhere in that range. Newly at level cap, was running Minas Tirith dailies with Maven, Glordriel. And she introduced me to this person that she had met named Finor, who invited us to go raiding with Ploy. And we did the Throne of Dread Terror. And it was so much fun. And there were Mumaks. And it was amazing. And then this awesome Finn dude was like, hey, you want to come again? And we were like, yes. And that's how my raid experiences started.
Is it my turn?
Yes.
So, Sans is actually the one who introduced me to raiding, and I started raiding in Mordor with a Vallard character because I did not want to be left out of hanging out with Pineleaf and Terry and Maven and all of those guys and Sans. And the only way that I could do all of the content that they were doing, because y'all were on to the new content, was to Valar boost my character. And so Cinderina was my first Vallard character. And so I popped her up, and I got to do the Abyss of Mordath as my first raid. And I think we did it with Ploy, either that or it was a Ploy Mythgard mashup that time. Because it must have been right around the same time that I met Krister, and we got to start doing some things that way too. Actually, I think Krister might have been the first raid leader that I got to work with.
Oh boy. Well,
yeah.
nowhere to go but up. I mean, that was
And Finneor was the one who taught me how to play Cinderina at that level and what she would need to do in a raid. And so we would run, and say he would bring Finneor and I would bring Cinderina, and we would run together. And he taught me all about how to use my mezzes and all of those things to be successful. So that was my first experience. It was a lot of fun. It was hard, but like everybody was really kind and encouraging, and it was never a case of, "Ugh, this was your fault." It was always a case of, "Oh, well, that wasn't successful. Let's try again," or "We didn't get it this week. Let's try it next week."
You were clearly not on a hunter.
No.
I think even in my first raid, there were a few pulls that were my fault.
Oh, even though I would give you guys flack about it, ultimately that's perfectly fine. Everybody makes those mistakes. Plus, it keeps you on your toes. That's what I liked about me. You know what you get with me as a tank? Even though you might not see it, you might not notice it, you might not even be aware of it. I am paying hyper attention to everything all the time because I know that one of you potentially can screw anything up at any moment, and I have to be ready to intercept whatever mistake you just made.
And
you roll with it so well, Krister.
My absolute favorite part, though, of being the tank with Krister as off tank, though, is that I don't have to worry about that because he is. So when I'm on Emeralina and she's tanking, like, I just have to do what he said to do and do my very best to keep that under control. And it's usually just one mob that I have to worry about. Sometimes it's more, but it's usually just one. And when it is more, Krister's really good about bringing them to me so that I don't have to go run around. Because I think I mentioned earlier, like, kiting is not my strength. Because when I play, it's kind of like when I watch a movie, I kind of get sucked in and everything else ceases to exist, and it's like I'm there with the character, and it's hard for me to take in all that extra information and still be successful. Because it overwhelms me, and I'm just like, then I freeze. And so that's one of my favorite things of having Krister as the off tank to Emeralina, is that I don't have to worry about the extra pieces. I just have to worry about doing my job really well. And that's really nice. It makes raiding a lot of fun.
Well, that's what I think my favorite pairing for tank is Guardian with an off tank captain. Because Aggie was, me and Aggie did a lot of stuff paired up. And what's really nice about that too is not only when you get people start understanding the raid and their class, it's just when you get that kind of synergy with everybody, everybody knows what their job is, and so you can have the confidence to do the job. And then the funnest part of that is when something goes sideways, how everybody can just calmly do their work, get everything back in order, and get us right back on track to victory. That's my favorite thing, when everything falls apart and we stitch it back together and win.
Yeah. And Aggie
it makes for some of the best memories.
Without a doubt, yeah.
And Aggie taught me how to tank in Mordor with Emeralina.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
Aggie was awesome.
And I ran as an off tank for him a couple times in, I think it was the Abyss of Mordath. And he'd be like, "Okay, this is what you got to do. This is what you got to do." And then after a while, I got to be the tank, and Aggie preferred to be the off tank. And that was also fun because we had the two guardians together. So, yeah.
Well, and I think the other cool thing is that we had our roles, but we could easily switch what we were doing based on the circumstance as well. Is that we weren't just, well, this was your responsibility. No, I can cover this. You do that. We know what we're doing. I'll cover this gap here. You go over there, type of stuff. And I just love that. Yeah. I love the teamwork.
And the communication is really important and super helpful. To make sure.
Now, back in my day,
when things crash.
Remember this? That Pine Leaf and I used to have to do all of that by typing.
Yeah.
There was a day that there wasn't voice. What a nightmare!
I'm so glad that I did not have to deal with that.
Voice made everything so much easier. It was because when I was younger, me and my friends, we had our all four of our computers at my one friend's house, networked. And so it was great when we were doing anything online together because we're all in the same room. We can have an instantaneous communication with ourselves and sort everything out. So when it transitioned to voice, it was just wonderful too. But yeah, I totally agree. The rating stuff was just a wonderful, unexpected gift of when playing LOTRO. I wasn't expecting it, and it offered a whole new horizon.
Yep. Does that just leave Pine Leaf to share his first
Yeah,
rating
yeah.
experience?
It's actually I don't. I'm trying to think if I've ever had done a raid with typing because we did at least have the in-game voice chat, which
Oh no,
not
you mean
exact.
did I just show my age? Because I just turned into an old man last week. So, oh boy, okay, yeah.
Okay,
So back when I played video games, when they were when the internet protocol was smoke signals.
yes. Now let's see. Now I do know that we think we've done plenty of six-player ones. I do wonder what did we use for chatting in my first raid. Now I think of it as whether it was voice or not voice, because the first raid I could think of, because is while I had done a couple of six-player instances like Groth, and when I talk about Groth, because back when you started the game, a gift for the North was considered a big deal. And, whether that was a level 10 six-player instance, I mean, I know it was strange because because in the Shire there was this very, very low level six-player instance. And of course, the first one that I remember doing of those though was the Great Barrel, and the Great Barrel in those days was one big instance. It was not like it is today, where it's divided into three different areas. But as for the first raid, it should be no shock to anyone that the first one I actually remember was Trouble in Tuckborough.
I was just gonna say it had to have been a skirmish, Pine.
Yeah. And it was I think a couple of years after the release of Skirmishes, it was going to be New Year's Day of whatever year it was. And it was to be the 1000th at level skirmish for my main character at the time. So I thought that skirmish number 1000 will be my first real raid, because I had maybe had a couple of raids that were, making my guides where I would set the level way low and go through it solo. So it wasn't a real raid because both the level and that. But fortunately, they keep stats on at level skirmishes that you've done in there. In fact, it still keeps those statistics even to this day in the game. So my 1000th at level skirmish on my main character was a skirmish raid. And so, we had it on New Year's Day of, I guess it was the year after skirmishes were released, or the year after. I can't remember which one it was. So I had tried to arrange getting this skirmish. Now since I hadn't done any raiding before, you could just imagine me attempting to try to be a raid leader. Fortunately, there was somebody there who knew what they were doing, and they were able to. And they seem to have volunteered very quickly in picking up the slack. And one of the things I remember happening on there is, since I was on my ward in there, is I was tanking the boss at the end. And of course, where you're tanking the boss in the courtyard, and of course everybody else is in the inner courtyard where you have the entrance into the borough. And in that case, they were, of course, all going against the lieutenants in there, while I'm, of course, keeping control there. Well, there happened to have been somebody there who had a protector. And back in those days, a protector at level cap was actually capable of not only taking a lot of damage without getting killed, but they're also capable of stealing aggro from a warden. And so about halfway through I notified the one who took over in there that it looks like I can't get aggro off protector. He says, okay, fine, you can then join us in killing the lieutenants. Because we didn't want to kill the boss quickly, because when you kill the boss quickly, you summon more lieutenants, because it's done by when as the morale goes down. I think that's the last time I was in a group with Trouble in Tuckborough where I actually had everybody cooperating or doing as little damage as possible to the boss while the lieutenants are out, because usually the boss is dead before before any of the lieutenants are dead, because people keep on bashing on it. I guess maybe since it was a raid, people were taking it more seriously, since you could have as many as 6 lieutenants out if you go around bashing the boss. But it actually went pretty smoothly on there. And I forgot who it was who took over on leading on that thing, but thank you for doing so, because I think the whole thing would have fallen apart otherwise. But yeah, I remember that because it was my 1000th skirmish on that character.
Wow.
All right, so I think that's it for our first raid, at least the first raid that we can remember. Mary Rose doesn't have anything there that she was talking about on her raid, so if she does, I guess we could come and bring that up. But until then, let's then head into our week in gaming. Krister, what were you up to?
Well, this last week was unfortunately returning to work after my vacation, and had a good work week. It was just busy. Hung out with the kid a little bit, harassed him a bit. Played the ESO has a new PvP type that they're testing out, and played that a bit this week, which was a lot of fun. And then felt a little strategery. So I loaded Galactic Civ 4 and Civ 6, just messed around with them a little bit. And then last week, Cinders, Sans, Jared, and myself found out that we are not in any way, shape, or form ready to face that dragon in Shrouded. But it was a lot of fun finding that out.
What's Gal Civs for?
Galactic Civilization is a space strategy 4X game. It's one of my favorites, and if you like those space sims with, because it can be very, very micromanagey as well.
Right.
And if you like that type of stuff, I would highly recommend the game.
So I think micromanaging, I think, would drive me crazy.
That's it. Is if you get to the point where you're running an interstellar empire, and it's like, I spent the last hour just clicking economic policies on my planets, and
and it sounds like that, because you remember how much I would go crazy when things got really, really messy in Civ 6.
Yes, I remember that.
You remember that?
So that was when we tried playing with the turn timers, and that was not working for you.
Yeah.
I remember you sounding so panicked because the turn timer would be clicking down and you hadn't done everything yet, and there was so much to do. Yeah. So, my week in gaming was not as active as it could have been, but that is for reasons that you will find out the next time you listen to DDO Players News or read DDO Players, because I was working on a project for that. But I fought a dragon and died repeatedly in Enshrouded with Sans and Krister and my son. And on the way to the dragon, I also had some very frustrating experiences trying to get where I was going and not being able to get there. And the
Was it,
graph
hey, Cinders, was it any consolation that it was really easy for me and Sans to do it?
no, that was part of the frustration actually. So I talked with Sans afterwards and I was like, oh, this is terrible. Because what happens is the atmosphere in the game is so good. Like, again, I just kind of get drawn into it and emotionally invested in it. And then when it's dark or I can't see or I lose where I'm at, and especially when it's dark and I can't see and I lose track of where I'm at, it's extremely panic inducing. And in trying to work through it, I end up being sharper than I intend, and I can sound kind of mean. And I'm just always worried that I'm going to hurt somebody's feelings without meaning to or realizing it because I'm just trying to like get through without like
Oh no,
screaming into
no.
my microphone
There's
and
nothing but
scaring
empathy
everybody
there
else around me.
because I've done it a billion times in that game too. It's so funny with that game where you're just like everything, you're flying in, everything's fine, and then you miss where you intended to land by 1 inch, and you're falling off a cliff into the shroud, and
Right.
suddenly everything went wrong, and you're like, "What did I do?" And then you hit the updraft at that point, and then you're totally disoriented, and then
Yeah, and like, and
You
then
land somewhere and then you've got to figure out how to get back to where you need to go, but you have no idea where you are anymore.
and everything wants to kill you, and you're not sure you'll survive. And then if you lose your stuff, you're not sure you can get back to get your stuff. And I probably should not be that attached to my stuff, but I'm very attached to my stuff because I want to use it for projects back at the base. And so, like, and you know, like when you go on a roller coaster and you go up and then you drop and like everything just drops out, like every time like I miss a landing and I'm falling off a cliff, like I feel that like it's an actual
oh yeah,
feeling, and
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
just
yeah. Yep.
and so it's so fun, but it's so stressful. And Santa's been like, well, if it's too much, like you don't have to play. I'm like, no, I want to play. It's a challenge for me in a good way. It's a good way to stretch myself. Because Sans was like, you don't panic like that, even when things are like pummeling you in a raid. I'm like, but it's different. Like I can see my character, I can back myself out way far with my camera and see what's happening around me. And I know, like, if I die, I'm not going to be unable to get to my stuff. Like, my stuff just comes with me. Like, I get, like, it's literally just, oh, run back in. Oh, run back in, and it's a very different set. And you're not usually falling off of stuff into mobs that want to kill you.
Right,
For yourself when you're not worth beating.
I'm
doing
talking
your
about
sensible
like
horse.
I'm talking about like in a raid situation, right? Like if you're raiding and you get knocked off, you're falling into lava and you just reset and go back. Like it's not a case of you're falling and everything's gonna pound on you. It's gonna be like insta dead and you go back. Right? And then I did Dragon in the Storm run with Ploy on Sunday. And we wiped a few times, but we did succeed once. And then we wiped some more and we're not successful.
And we
so
succeeded the first time and then we wiped a lot.
Yeah, so we wiped and then we succeeded and then we wiped and wiped and wiped and wiped and wiped and wiped and wiped. And then we called it quits for the night and we're trying it again tomorrow. So we'll see how it goes. And then I spent most of this week cleaning my house in preparation for the dinner party that I was hosting today. And so I didn't have a lot of time to play, but Sans and I did find a time where we were both needing to do something different than what we had going on at our own homes. And I said, let's do some deeding because it's always more fun to go deeding with friends, especially a hunter friend at low levels. Because you get the leafy feet and then you just go. And Sans has a better range than M. And so Sans, like, I could just like tool around, feeling like I was really helpful.
For the moment.
I know. Tool around, feeling like I was super helpful. And it was really nice because LOTRO does let you like put somebody on follow. So when Sans had to go take care of her dogs, I could keep going and killing stuff, and it would count for both of us.
Oh well. But of course, if those changes go through, you're gonna need.
She's gonna need me anyways. Yeah. So we did some deeding in 4Kill and an Enid wife. And Sans finished her 4Kill deeds except the Lost Fellowship, and I'm now down to the Lost Fellowship and one treasure in 4Kill. And then
I don't have the treasure of 4Kill.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
I'm guessing you started it while we were playing because we found one, and I was like, "Hey, look, a treasure chest!" And Sans was like, "Oh, it's glowy." So she clicked on it, and she got her jade gemstone to verify it was truly a treasure chest. And then we did some deeding in Enid wife, and I have more work to do there, obviously, than Sans because I didn't quest through that area. We discovered that was about the exact area where we started working on popping her captain and my guardian up, which a captain and guardian on landscape is not the greatest combination. It's not a terrible one.
Yeah, I thought we were going to level quickly, and then I encountered the fact that, like, despite looking like I could probably do DPS like a champion, I could not on my captain.
What we discovered was it was fantastic for when I got separated from Sans because she could just summon me back to her. And then we realized that that's really redundant because on the Guardian, I could just send her an acorn. I
mean, we also did a great job surviving. Like, there was very little that could actually kill us.
We did not die. We did a fabulous. We just didn't kill very quickly either.
The deadliest thing we encountered as that duo was falling.
Yeah.
Off a cliff if we weren't careful.
Yeah. So, her captain was fantastic though, because she can do like the jumping up things, because I'm not really great at like jumping activities. They freak me out, number one, and number two, I fall frequently, and then I can't get back to where I was, which is part of why Enshrouded can drive me crazy sometimes. But I'm better at jumping in Enshrouded than any of the other games I've played where I've had to jump to get places. So, like, to get to the top of that tower in Rohan or wherever that is, Sans took her captain to the top and then summoned all of my characters to the top, so that I didn't have to try and jump my way to the top, because I tried and I tried and I tried and I tried for like 2 days, and finally I was like, okay, I give up. Anyhow, my sister's the best.
Aww.
Oh yeah, she takes good care of my characters. Anyhow, Sans, how was your week?
Well, I also fought the dragon and died repeatedly. Enshrouded with you guys. Well, I didn't die so much as I got knocked off the cliff and went flying and had to find my way back repeatedly. And after the dragon run last weekend in LOTRO, I noticed how low Sans's morale was compared to the rest of the group. I was even way lower than the mini. And so I started deeding. And I did lots of deeding in lots of areas. I deeded with Looney Finn and Gwendis. I deeded with Cinders. I deeded on my own. And I gained Virtue XP and morale. Not nearly enough, but I gained some. And I did testing on Bullroar. And after the testing on Bullroar that I've already told you about, I made myself a new river hobbit to go fishing to try to help make some money on Sting for my higher level character who needs LI reforging. And as I was sitting there getting ready to make a hunter, I thought long and hard about it because I had just gotten off Bullroar. And I logged in and out a couple times and fiddled with the character a while, and then I made a warden instead of a hunter.
A warden?
Because I realized I wanted the ports of the hunter, I wanted the fast leafy feet of the hunter, and I wanted to know that I could do enough DPS to kill my way out of a situation if necessary. And they're making my leafy feet slower, and they're messing with all of my potential abilities to kill things and may or may not actually succeed in letting me kill things. And so I went with a warden because they have not nerfed the warden run speed. And the warden has lots of ports. And the warden can still kill things. For sure. For the moment.
Which
So.
is rather strange because I've spent most of my days with wardens that are having trouble getting anything killed. I've played Ward during times when it was the slowest class in the game.
Well, it might be the slowest class in the game, but you can fairly reliably get off shield things and heal things.
Yeah.
As well as damage things. Like,
okay.
And you don't have to like stand there and try to induct something to be able to use a gambit. Like, you can just keep using your skills.
Right, because your inductions the gambits are effectively the inductions, and they do damage.
Right, like you build up to a gambit. You don't necessarily have to like keep inducting these long things to get like 3 more points to be able to use towards a gambit. Like you just keep using skills that do damage while you're building your gambit. So it might take a while, but I felt very confident that a warden was going to be able to be used to kill things should it be necessary.
Okay, and a river hobbit because you like that fishing bonus.
Yeah, I thought I'd try the fishing bonus and just see. I mean, like, it probably won't actually make that much of a difference compared to other characters for a while because, like, she'll start at level 1 just like everybody else.
Well, first you got to kill enough of the right mob to get the bonus.
Well, you have to get to level 13 before you can even kill enough of the right mob to get the bonus. So she's got a little bit of a ways before she'll get to test out the bonus part. But it seemed like a good idea. And then I went back to Peregrine, and I had a level 2 Mariner that I started running around with Gwendis, who's also a river hobbit, but she's on a different server. And so we learned some dances and delivered mail and helped hobbits and fished. And she's now level 13, which is pretty cool. And she can now start killing mobs for her fishing bonus. Though I did not originally make her to get a fishing bonus, I made her to try out the Mariner class. So that's been kind of fun. Weird, but fun. And I love that I can sail to Killendom. That's amazing. And then that was pretty much my week. Oh, and I've been playing Vengeance and Cyrodiil in ESO. And that was a lot of fun. Because, like, you can just join the massive hordes, and then you fight horde versus horde, and it's amazing. And sometimes you end up, like, by yourself, and you run into the wrong horde, and then you're slaughtered.
Yes.
And sometimes you're part of a horde, and you run into a group of 1 or 2 or 3, and they're slaughtered. But a lot of the time, you're sieging and defending the fortresses and outposts and repairing, and one horde encounters another horde, and it is great fun because everybody has basically an even playing field. You all have the same tools, the same new skills, vengeance skills, and then you get to just kind of free for all. So that was fun. How was your week, Pineleaf?
I will start with my Guardian I was running Elder Slade missions, working on leveling my Guardian. And right now I've reached 95, so I'm making good progress on that front. My captain joined Friday Night Fight in an attack on the King's Fortress. So we did actually, you have a choice of which is the order you fight the first 2 bosses. So we went after the Lady of the Pride and going after her, seeing what we could do. Apparently, the group the group. I was in a different group last week, so I wasn't part of it there, where they had a lot of trouble with that boss. So we came in there, and the good news is apparently we made it further than they managed last week. So that's so the plus. The minus is, so as soon as the boss hits level at 50% and that lion comes in, the whole thing goes whap right after that and goes directly downhill. So we haven't figured out how to damage the lion, because supposedly the lion is the target you're supposed to be going after, because as long as it's alive, the boss can't be damaged. But for some reason, that lion doesn't seems to be taking damage at such a slow rate that, I mean, really? And it just looks at you and you instantly melt away and die. So it's, oh, we got a long ways to work to figure out how to get by that thing. So after a couple of wipes due to the lion coming in and looking at some money, we decided, all right, let's try the arena. So we tried the arena. The arena, I don't think I've ever completed with the 6 group before. I think we've always died at the first boss or something. So this time we went in there, and I guess after spending time trying to fight that lion or something like this, we had absolutely no trouble with it. We got through both of the lower bosses, and then Rothgar we managed to get through without any trouble. So we finished off with a good note, meaning we succeeded in the end. Then so that was with my captain, and my captain wasn't exactly my top character. In fact, my captain had spent 4 months on top of the lion just in case anyone asked to be summoned over. So I really hadn't been questing my captain. So my captain had actually, my allies were just minimal or something like that. So it's good to be able to start working on my captain, and it was nice being able to do something with my captain and actually finishing that arena, despite the fact that my captain was really, really, really ill prepared. And then in Stardew Valley, I am still running on the Riverland farm that I'm running on. I'm progressing fairly well. I've got 6 of the star drops. I'm still trying to finish up the last few items in the museum. I've got all the artifacts done, but there are a couple of minerals that just will not drop for me. I'm trying to get the right geodes, and the mineral that comes from it just doesn't drop. Okay, I try to say, okay, here's another frost geode, another frost geode, another frost geode, and nope, none of them have the mineral that I'm looking for. So that's going to take a little time. On top of that, I decided to buy a slime hutch. I'd never bought a slime hutch before, and seeing, okay, why would someone want a slime hutch in order to get slime eggs? It sounds like a rather weird thing to try to raise in there, but it seems to be working out so far. I seem to be getting a slime egg every day or two or whatever in order to sell, and they sell, even the cheapest one of those sells for 1,000 gold a pop. So it's a decent amount of money that I'm making out of it. So I think that's working out on there. And I'm also getting really, really close to shipping everything. And I have never had a character that was so close to shipping it. I even got the ones that I thought were going to be impossible, the radioactive ores and the radioactive bar sent out. So the things that really have left are the goat items, because I never actually got a goat because I didn't need one. I had never actually needed one before I managed to complete the community center without getting a goat, because the traveler seller happened to have those things. So I never bought one. So I never shipped any goat products before. So as a result of that, I am now getting ready to get a goat in there, and I think once I do that, I'll do everything. I think by the time that's all ready, the goat grows up and all that, I'll be able to, my ostrich will lay an egg, so I could ship an egg, and I could finally actually have everything shipped. Actually complete the shipping thing before. It says, I presume you've completed the ship everything thing before?
Nope.
Nope, you haven't?
I have
Okay.
not. I've gotten close, but I haven't done it yet.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm hoping that by next week I can report successfully getting that done. And oh yes, I also managed to finally reach the forge in the volcano.
Nice.
Yeah, because every other time I've done that before, I would like be just short of it or something like this, and it gets too late. But I managed to get there very close to, it was getting around midnight or something like this. And I went in there, I picked up the two walnuts that are in that room, picked up the prismatic shard that's in that room, and I even managed to combine my two rings into one ring so that I would be able to put another ring onto the other finger so that I could be a little things would be a little bit better on what I'm doing on that end. So I managed to get all that done and even get back to the farm in time to not pass out.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. So that all worked out well on that front. And that's my week in gaming. And it looks like Sam called Pine Leaf the shipper. Whether that's someone who ships or whether that's someone in charge of a ship, I am not sure.
Sam also joined the conversation after we had talked hunters already, but contributions were preference for yellow on hunters because he likes the traps, and also Captain, my captain.
That's right.
Captain, my cat. Although I was the one that caught my eye though is when we were talking about our remembrances and Sam Tyson Pepperidge Farm remembers, and I'm just thinking, are we going to have a Pepperidge Farm raid? We protect Pepperidge Farm against the goblins that want to steal the baked goods or something like that.
Trouble in
Goldfish
Pepperidge Farms.
crackers. My favorite snack, guys. If you ever want to know things that are pink, goldfish, the original goldfish, and chocolate. That's the way to my heart.
Okay.
I do accept bribes.
So if they had pink chocolate covered original goldfish, you'd be in seventh heaven.
No, that would be disgusting. So they make a pink princess goldfish cracker. Those things are nasty. Don't get me those. Those will get you blacklisted.
Okay. And as for news beyond LOTRO, I watched a video this weekend from Jess of the Shire, who posted her 30-minute summary of the story of the Silmarillion. The Silmarillion in 30 minutes. And complete with visual effects so that you could see or attempt to see where everybody is. And so she's sticking these sticky notes where, okay, are we over in Valinor? Are we over in Middle Earth? Are we over in this place or that place? And of course, gets to toss them aside when near the end of it, they're all just dying off like flies. And anyway, so I posted a link to her video on there, so you could see if you're having trouble understanding the Silmarillion, perhaps that could give you an overall idea in just 30 minutes. I presume you remember the story of the Silmarillion. You say, "What's that?"
Okay, so
was that when Frodo was turned into a robot?
Silmarillion, I have read it once. It took so long to get through.
I can imagine.
Then I bought it for my kid and got him the audiobook. And I've listened to part of the audiobook, the first part, about 45 minutes of it. And if you're going to do the Silmarillion, the audiobook is the way to do it. It is because we were driving home from a basketball game, and so it was a 45-minute drive, and we put it on the car speakers, and we were just listening, and it was so much easier to get into the flow of the storytelling when somebody else was reading it, and my brain didn't have to deal with the words and the names and all of those things. It was like listening to a story, because that's what it was. And it was a much more pleasant way to encounter it.
Well, Silmarillion is more of a collection of shorter stories rather than one.
Well, yeah, but I don't know if you've ever heard a good story reader or storyteller where you can just kind of lean into it, and there's just a flow to it that you can just kind of fall into, and the listening doesn't require focused effort because it's so effortless to fall into, if that makes sense.
Okay.
And so, like, when you read, you usually have to, like, focus your attention, like, on the Cimmerillion in order to keep track of the words and all of the connections. Like, it requires a lot of brain work. It requires a lot of eye work. It's exhausting by the time you get through the first story. But then this particular audiobook version, like, it was just a story. And like, I was able to focus on driving and still keep track of what was happening in the story at that point, because the listening was effortless, if that makes sense. So, highly advise audiobook version for the Cimmerillion.
Yeah, I've listened to my audio version of that at least twice. So, yes, I do understand your preference for that. And I think I've only read the whole thing through once. Now, I have recently done at Mythgard every month, we have a Tolkien reading session.
Mhm.
So I had read the story of Beren and Luthien from the Silmarillion. I had just finished that a month ago, where we did that. So I'm starting now on the last chapter on to follow up on there. So obviously, I had to read from a book in order to do that, since I was doing the presentation instead of listening to it. But and notice that I chose chapters which I think make good, interesting stories, like Beren and Luthien. That is probably one of the say one of the it's probably the best story in the Silmarillion. And I guess because that's the one that Tolkien has spent his entire life working on.
Yeah.
But okay, so that's it for this week's show. If you have any feedback, you can send it to podcast@lotraplayers.com. The Players Alliance has 2 shows. On Saturdays at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, we have record Lotra Players News and re-record DDO Players News when Drac is available. You guys choose our shows at lotraplayers.com/live. And that's all for tonight then. This is Pilot Needles reminding you to skirmish responsibly.